Vivo's V series is the company's mid-range, youthful and creative series. A few short months later, Vivo is skipping a number and already moving to the V25 family after the V23 and V23 Pro. Today we have the V25 Pro in for review. It is a similar phone, at least in overall spirit, to the V23 Pro. Namely, it is aimed toward a creative crowd with an impressive camera setup that tends to punch above its price class and a particular focus on a great selfie experience. Compared to the older generation, the V25 Pro now has a lower resolution 64 megapixel camera, Samsung GD2 sensor that packs EIS and new for this year OIS. The ultrawide camera has been beefed up to a 12 megapixel unit too. On the selfie side of things, Vivo decided to drop the second ultra-wide camera and simplify things a bit with what is now a single 32 megapixel Samsung GD2 sensor. We'll have to see whether it actually constitutes an upgrade over the dual selfie camera setup on the Vivo V23 Pro, but the autofocus feature is still there at the very least. That makes the V25 Pro an appealing offer for a younger crowd of social network enthusiasts and creators. Vivo V25 Pro comes with a 6.5-inch Full HD Plus 3D curved AMOLED display with a resolution of 2376 x 1080p. And I have to say, this is one of the prettiest displays I have seen on a mid-ranger lately. Initially, I found the colors to be a little saturated at the default settings, but after playing around with the color temperature for about 2 minutes, I found the perfect balance for my own liking. Since then, the curved panel has produced rich, bright colors which are crisp and correct to the source. The black levels are also top-notch, and I am yet to notice any patches that would spoil my experience. The panel also supports HDR content on Netflix. I watched the first season of Stranger Things and it was delight. The clarity of panel was good and I could see crisp detail in the episode. With a peak brightness of 1300 nits, this panel can get fairly bright. However, I won't recommend keeping the device on auto brightness. As I have observed in other reviews, auto brightness doesn't work well with streaming apps. The brightness also comes handy outdoors and the display is readable unless the sun is directly overhead. The display also has an always on feature, so height is favorable. Now this is a punch hole display, and with the curved treatment combined with minimal bezels, it gives you more than enough real estate. The display is responsive and so far I have not come across a situation where it has failed. The in-display fingerprint scanner is on the slower side. It takes half a second to unlock the device and you have to press your finger against the screen for it to unlock. Vivo had mentioned that this situation will be eased with an OTA update and I would look forward to it. Also, this is something that a general consumer might not notice, and to be fair, it doesn't really spoil your experience as such. The display also supports a peak refresh rate of 120Hz and it does come with an adaptive refresh rate which here is dubbed Smart Switch. This switches the screen refresh rate between 60 and 120Hz according to the content you are looking at. The execution for this feature is a bit shaky, though in some cases, while reading on websites and browsers, the refresh rate was not above 60Hz. This was most notable on web pages with video content on them. The problem exists with web pages with minimal media files like Wikipedia. The Smart Switch should be improving over time with updates, but for now I would suggest you stick with the 120Hz setting. Yes, it might drain some extra juice from the battery, but the experience would be justified. I have gamed extensively on the V25 Pro and the display has been reliable comrade. Switching positions, interacting with my weapons, everything can be done with ease. I wish Vivo would have added a speaker setup that complemented the display of this caliber. The V25 Pro comes with a single bottom firing speaker setup. Now that is a loud unit, but you might feel let down when you put it against the display. As there is an issue with most bottom firing speakers, your palm ends up blocking it. I, against my will, had to connect my TWS buds with the device to enjoy my content, especially feature films. Not giving a dual speaker setup on the device was a big miss. Vivo V25 Pro runs on Android 12 out of the box, which is combined with Vivo's own FunTouch OS 12 skin. This was my first interaction with the UI and the experience so far has been positive. Yes, there is some bloatware on the device with preloaded short-form content apps, all of which can be uninstalled. I don't want to rant about this anymore considering virtually every brand is doing it with a few exceptions like Nothing Phone 1. Looking past that, the UI is surprisingly well put together with the very minimal bugs that I have observed so far. Let's start with what I like about it. FunTouch OS has been around for a while and my assumption about it was in stark contrast to what it is. It is aesthetically pleasing and colorful with the app icons popping out. I also like the treatment for taskbars, shelf and calendar. It is very different from what other brands are offering, reinforcing the USP of the Android universe. Apply your skin and make wonders. The OS also wins big in terms of customization. Yes, you get the usual dark and light mode here, but there is plenty more in store. From changing themes, app icon sizes, text sizes and animation, the device does allow interacting with to the fullest. The widgets on offer are plenty, and with Android 12 the execution is top notch. I generally avoid using widgets and shortcuts for emails or messaging apps, but with FunTouch OS 12 I was encouraged to do so. I am also a video producer, hence recording audio notes for voiceovers is a big task in my profile. On the FunTouch OS, the audio recorder lets you record and edit your audio like a timeline. This is niche feature, but for someone like me, it truly came in handy, saving me time. There is also game space on the device, which improves the gaming experience. It has neat features like voice changer, screenshot shortcut and performance modes. So far I have encountered just one bug that shows up after long intervals. This is with the YouTube app. With the app just crashes even after multiple attempts. After I clear out the rest of the background activity, this gets sorted out. This is nothing serious and I am hoping Vivo can fix it with a OTA updates. By the time we are publishing this video, Vivo is yet to confirm the situation of future software updates on the device. This will be updated once there is a response from the brand. Vivo V25 Pro is powered by MediaTek Dimensity 1300 5G chipset. Yes, the same SoC we have lately seen on Note 2T. A device I reviewed, the SoC on my review unit is paired with 12GB of RAM and 256GB of internal storage. A point of note here is that this is LPDDR4 RAM in line with most of the phones in this budget. An LPDDR5 configuration would have made a minute difference, especially for generic users. Deep diving into performance now, let's start by talking about performance-hungry tasks like gaming and shooting with the V25 Pro. The smartphone by itself providing plenty of power to deal with graphic intensive tasks, and it holds up pretty well for a respectable period. I was gaming with the device over the previous weekend, switching between COD Mobile and Genshin Impact. This was a 1.5 hour session with maxed out graphics on both games. My observations are generally favorable for the device in terms of graphic output. There are no lags or ugly frame drops that would spoil my experience. The device was super responsive and would connect with the parties and servers in a snap. So that's another win. However, it was the heat management that was a bit of a letdown. The smartphone gets considerably hot with prolonged sessions of games, and it would over time to get difficult to hold for it a long time. The edges and glass back put together add to the warmth the back is throwing. Eventually, I had to keep it aside for about 5 minutes before jumping into another session. This heating issue was not as prominent with the camera. Clearly, the graphic intensive tasks pushes the V25 Pro to the brink. To put things into perspective, I also ran a Geekbench score for the device and the results are nothing extraordinary. The single core score was 843 while the multi-core score was 2554. This was higher than 2-year-old flagships but considerably lower than the likes of Poco F3 with a multi-core score of 3062. But again, V25 Pro is not pitched like a gaming device. Moving on, the RAM management on the device is decent. The 12GB of RAM on my variant can hold light apps like web browsers and social media apps like Instagram or Facebook for long. The phone holds up well halfway for heavier apps like COD Mobile eventually crashing. I tried the RAM expansion on board, which adds another 8GB from system storage. This improved the experience with heavy apps considerably. If you are into gaming, I suggest keeping the RAM extension on. Coming to the battery performance, the V25 Pro packs in a 4830 mAh battery, which supports 66-watt flash charge with the bundled power brick. This cell is not big with the numbers, and on a heavy day full of gaming and watching movies, I was getting a screen on time up to 6 hours. Do note here that this is with a 120Hz refresh rate and non-stop uses. In layman's terms, this means with heavy uses, you would have to put it up on charge at least once in the middle of the day, while a light user can stretch it for an entire day easily. Charging times are fairly decent. The phone goes from 0 to 100% in about 50 minutes with an active internet connection. Yes, it's not crazy fast when you pitch it against the likes of OnePlus Nord 2T with 80-watt SuperVOOC charging or Oppo Reno 8 Pro, but it holds up well.
64 मेगापिक्सल ये OIS के साथ आता है, 8 मेगापिक्सल अल्ट्रावाइड और 2 मेगापिक्सल का मैक्रो है। मेन कैमरे से फोटो, अल्ट्रावाइड एंगल से फोटो।
Primary camera being a 64 megapixel sensor with optical image stabilization. Then there is an 8 megapixel ultrawide sensor and a 2 megapixel useless macro sensor.
देख के दिल खुश हो ही जाता है और यहाँ पर है
64
Vivo in
मेगापिक्सल
their
का प्राइमरी
briefing
सेंसर है
mentioned
जो
repeatedly
OIS
how
दोनों को
rather
सपोर्ट
than
करता है।
going
8
for
मेगापिक्सल
more
का अल्ट्रावाइड है,
megapixels,
2
they
मेगापिक्सल
have
का मैक्रो
sought
सेंसर
to
आता है। आगे की
test
तरफ
the increase
32
the
मेगापिक्सल
pixel
का
size
सेल्फी सेंसर है।
instead.
अब दोस्तों
The
बहुत सारे
results are
फोटोज
stunning,
वीडियोस हमने निकाले
speaking
हुए उसके
first
बारे
in
में बात करने
favorable
वाला हूँ,
lighting
लेकिन ओरिजिनल
conditions.
क्वालिटी
The
में जो भी
images
फोटोज
were
हमने बहुत सारे जो निकाले हुए
and
लो
retained
लाइट
warm
में
color
फोटोज
tones,
वगैरह
but
नहीं
not
अच्छे
so
आते
far
हैं।
off
सो
from the
जो
outdoors.
Vivo V सीरीज के
There
फोन्स
was
जनरली
minimal
होते हैं नोन
saturation
फॉर
with the camera
फोटोग्राफी, वैसे
sensor
ही
maintaining
कुछ ये भी।
तो
consistency
मेन कैमरे
across
से आप
images.
4K 60 FPS तक की वीडियो रिकॉर्ड कर
The
सकते हो।
64
एक्स्ट्रा
megapixel
स्टेबलाइजेशन
OIS
4K
may not
30
be
FPS
as
तक मिलेगा।
effective
वहीं
for
पे बात
videos,
करें
but
आपको
the
काफी सारे जो
assistance
वीवो के फिल्टर
it
वगैरह आते
provides
हैं
in
ना वो मिल
videos is
जाएंगे।
commendable.
नाइट वीडियो का
I
ऑप्शन
have
मिल जाएगा,
clicked
पोर्ट्रेट
multiple
मोड में भी आपको अलग अलग
images
फिल्टर
of
मिल जाते हैं,
fast
साथ
moving
में बोके
objects
फ्लेयर
on
का
the
ऑप्शन
road
मिल जाएगा। बाकी
with the
अल्ट्रावाइड एंगल
V25
कैमरा
Pro,
आपका
and
8
the
मेगापिक्सल है,
results
तो सिर्फ
seem
ये
like
मेनली
I
मतलब
stopped
डे लाइट में
time
अच्छी
in
फोटोज
the
क्लिक करेगा।
that
अगर
frame.
लो लाइट होगा,
This
लो लाइट
performance
में
is
मतलब
ahead
आपका अगर
of
अच्छी
the
रोशनी काम
previous
चलाएगा
phone I
अच्छा,
tested
बट
the
जहाँ पे
OnePlus
लाइट कम
10T.
होगी सॉफ्ट हो जाएगा,
But this
नॉइज
is
ऐड हो
not
जाती है
even
फोटोज
its
के अंदर।
strongest
64
suit.
मेगापिक्सल ये
YS
OIS के
Super
साथ
Night
आता है,
Portrait
8
is
मेगापिक्सल
Vivo's
अल्ट्रावाइड
big pitch for
और
the
2 मेगापिक्सल
V25
का
Pro.
मैक्रो है।
The
मेन
YS
कैमरे से फोटो,
algorithm
अल्ट्रावाइड
allows
एंगल
the
से
phone
फोटो।
to click clear portraits in low light.
वैसे ना अभी मैंने
This
स्टैंडर्ड
claim is
स्टेबलाइजेशन
made halfway,
मोड
but the
को एक्टिवेट किया
50%
हुआ
is
है।
no short
4K
of
30
surprise.
FPS चलते
I
हुए वीडियो
clicked
शूट हो रही है।
multiple
ये
images
मीटअप हुआ
in
था ना
pitch
हमारे
dark
यहाँ, क्या ही
conditions
ब्यूटीफुल
with
लग
the
रहा है
Vivo
यहाँ पे।
V25
क्या ही
Pro, and
लगता
the
है,
camera
देख के
app
दिल खुश हो ही
would
जाता है।
show
और
me
यहाँ
in
पर है
real time
64
how
मेगापिक्सल
the
का प्राइमरी
images are
सेंसर है जो
going to
OIS
look
एंड
once
EIS दोनों को
clicked
सपोर्ट
and
करता है। 8
processed.
मेगापिक्सल का
Yes,
अल्ट्रावाइड
the
है, 2
images
मेगापिक्सल
in
का
some
मैक्रो
conditions
सेंसर आता है।
can
आगे की
take
तरफ
up to
32
11
मेगापिक्सल का
seconds to
सेल्फी
process,
सेंसर है।
but
अब
the
दोस्तों बहुत
results
सारे
would
फोटोज
be
वीडियोस
bright
हमने निकाले हुए
frames.
उसके बारे में
In
बात करने वाला हूँ,
contrast,
लेकिन
the pitch
ओरिजिनल
dark
क्वालिटी
in
में
the
जो भी
room.
फोटोज हमने
This
बहुत सारे
is
जो निकाले
without
हुए
the
लो
dual
लाइट
LED
में आप
flash
फोटोज
in
वगैरह नहीं
action
अच्छे आते
and
हैं।
strictly
जो
AI
Vivo
at
V
play.
सीरीज के
The
फोन्स
age
जनरली होते
detection,
हैं
however,
नोन
in
फॉर
night mode
फोटोग्राफी,
was off.
वैसे ही कुछ ये भी
The
तो मेन कैमरे से
portraits
आप 4K
under
60
natural
FPS तक
lighting
की वीडियो
conditions
रिकॉर्ड
are a
कर
sight
सकते हो।
to
एक्स्ट्रा
behold,
स्टेबलाइजेशन
and you
4K
can
30
even
FPS तक मिलेगा।
adjust
वहीं
the
पे बात
bokeh
करें
effect
आपको
in
काफी
the
सारे जो वीवो के
Photos
फिल्टर
app.
वगैरह आते हैं ना
The
वो मिल
age
जाएंगे।
detection is
नाइट
top
वीडियो का
notch.
ऑप्शन
I
मिल
did
जाएगा,
notice
पोर्ट्रेट
the
मोड में भी
image
आपको अलग
getting
अलग फिल्टर
warmer
मिल जाते हैं,
tones with
साथ
HDR
में
turned
बोके
on.
फ्लेयर का ऑप्शन
This
मिल जाएगा।
was
बाकी अल्ट्रावाइड
mostly
एंगल कैमरा
with
आपका 8
reds in the
मेगापिक्सल है,
frame.
सो सिर्फ ये मेनली मतलब डे लाइट
The
में अच्छी फोटोज
ultrawide
क्लिक
camera,
करेगा।
while
अगर लो
giving
लाइट
you
होगा,
more
लो
room,
लाइट में
changes
मतलब
the
आपका
color
अगर
tone
अच्छी
of
रोशनी
the
काम
frame
चलाएगा अच्छा,
considerably.
बट जहाँ
This
पे
is
लाइट कम
visible
होगी
with the
सॉफ्ट हो
camera
जाएगा,
sensor
नॉइज ऐड
below.
हो जाती है फोटोज के अंदर।
The 2
64
megapixel
मेगापिक्सल
macro
ये
camera is
OIS
the
के साथ
weak
आता है,
link in
8
this
मेगापिक्सल
camera module.
अल्ट्रावाइड वाइड और 2 मेगापिक्सल का मैक्रो है। मेन कैमरे से फोटो, अल्ट्रा वाइड एंगल से फोटो। अभी मैंने स्टैंडर्ड स्टेबलाइजेशन मोड को एक्टिवेट किया हुआ है।
Video performance raises the bar back again. The camera can record 4K videos at 30 and 60 fps. The hybrid image stabilization on the camera thus makes its
64
presence
मेगापिक्सल का प्राइमरी सेंसर है
with
जो
fast
OIS है
moving
EIS
changes
दोनों को
in
सपोर्ट
camera
करता है।
angles.
8 मेगापिक्सल का
The
अल्ट्रा
jitters
वाइड है,
were
2 मेगापिक्सल का
minimal
मैक्रो
and the
सेंसर आता है।
lens
आगे
would
की
focus
तरफ
quickly.
32
The audio
मेगापिक्सल का
quality
सेल्फी
is
सेंसर है।
quite
अब
good.
दोस्तों बहुत सारे
Vivo's
फोटोज वीडियोस
commitment
हमने
to
निकाले हुए
making
उसके बारे में
this a
बात करने वाला हूं,
camera-centric
लेकिन
smartphone
ओरिजिनल
is
क्वालिटी में जो भी फोटोज
justified.
हमने बहुत
The
सारे जो
device
निकाले हुए
gets
लो
a
लाइट
dedicated
में
vlog
फोटोज
mode
वगैरह अच्छे
which
आते हैं।
lets you
So,
play
जो
around the
Vivo V
both
सीरीज के
front
फोन्स
and
जनरली
both
होते हैं
cameras at the
नोन
same
फॉर
time.
फोटोग्राफी।
Other features like live
तो मेन कैमरे
photos
से आप
and
4K
AI
60 fps तक की
enhancements
वीडियो
are
रिकॉर्ड
all
कर
adds
सकते हो।
on
एक्स्ट्रा स्टेबलाइजेशन
which
4K 30
majority
fps तक
of
मिलेगा। वहीं पे
consumers
बात
will
करें
like.
आपको काफी सारे जो वीवो के फिल्टर वगैरह आते हैं ना वो
The
मिल
selfie
जाएंगे।
camera is a
नाइट वीडियो का
32
ऑप्शन मिल
megapixel
जाएगा।
shooter with
पोर्ट्रेट मोड में भी आपको अलग अलग
autofocus. I
फिल्टर
have
मिल जाते हैं।
clicked multiple
साथ में
selfies
बोके
with
फ्लेयर का ऑप्शन मिल जाएगा।
and
बाकी
without
अल्ट्रा
my
वाइड एंगल कैमरा
glasses
आपका
with
8
the
मेगापिक्सल है।
V25 Pro
सिर्फ
and
ये
so far
मेनली
the
मतलब डे
results
लाइट में
have
अच्छी
been
फोटोज
decent.
क्लिक करेगा। अगर लो
It
लाइट होगा,
considerably
लो लाइट में
mellows
मतलब
down
आपका अगर
the
अच्छी
skin
रोशनी काम
tone
चलाएगा
and
अच्छा।
makes the
बट
skin
जहाँ पे
look
लाइट कम
paler.
होगी सॉफ्ट हो जाएगा, नॉइज ऐड हो
This
जाती है
is
फोटोज
without
के अंदर।
any
64
air filter
मेगापिक्सल ये
turned on.
OIS के साथ
However,
आता
the
है।
results
8 मेगापिक्सल
gradually
अल्ट्रा वाइड
get better
और 2 मेगापिक्सल का
once
मैक्रो है।
they use
मेन
AI
कैमरे से फोटो,
enhancements
अल्ट्रा वाइड
and
एंगल से
in
फोटो।
post-processing it
वैसे ना
does
अभी
its
मैंने
magic.
स्टैंडर्ड
Vivo V25 Pro has a very clear consumer base to whom I can recommend this device. It is for buyers who have cameras as their top priority, and this is undisputedly the V25 Pro's strongest suit. The design of this smartphone comes a close second for its overall appeal. Buyers who seek more reliable performance from their devices in terms of gaming and the battery should consider other options in the market like the OnePlus Nord 2T and Nothing Phone 1. And if you can stretch your budget, then the OnePlus 10T is also a valuable choice.